Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Vladimir Jutin. We are learning new details about the apparent suicide of celebrity chef and TV host Anthony Bourdain. According to CNN, the 61-year-old was found dead in his hotel room in France while working on his series for the network. CNN confirmed the death in a statement saying Bourdain was found unresponsive this morning by friend and fellow chef Eric Ripert. Carleigh Connelly is a director of Chowhound, and she joins us now to talk about the legacy that he leaves behind and the world that he opened up to us, Carleigh. I mean, through Anthony Bourdain's writing and through his television program, we learn things about other people and other cultures and other cuisines that perhaps many of us would never have had the opportunity to be exposed to.
He really was an incredible trailblazer. He helped people think differently about food and travel and exposed them to countries that they may have never even heard of or had the opportunity to learn about, thanks to his honest and refreshing take on the food in the States.
Food writer, as a food writer, what do you think in terms of how he just changed, for example, what you do for a living? I mean, because the world of food writing was very different before Anthony Bourdain came around.
Completely. Food writing obviously has been around for decades and decades and decades before Bourdain made his mark on the industry, but he really had a unique voice and was able to tell a story and a narrative that was deeper. He didn't just scratch the surface. He was really opening up his world and the chef's world to everyone who was part of it, but also everyone who wasn't part of it, and really made it an exciting expose onto what was happening in an industry that a lot of people didn't have insight or light into.
You know what I find really remarkable is all of us post pictures of the foods that we're eating on Instagram, right? And he apparently wasn't a big fan of that. He wasn't a big fan of like the Instagram food shots that we all do. But I also sort of feel, and I could be wrong about this, but I feel that it was partly because of Anthony Bourdain and people like him that people started to even think that the food that they were eating was interesting enough to be photographed, that you wanted to show someone when you're eating something that was sort of unique to where you happen to be, whether it was outside of the United States or in New Orleans, for example. And even though he didn't like that, he thought that you should experience it for what it was and not post photographs of it. I sort of feel like he gave rise to that. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, he definitely made food media much more mainstream. He initially, when he submitted his first article to the New Yorker about his work and time at Les Halles in New York, and also his work before that, he worked all over New York and in New Jersey, and he really just wanted to share his story for the other people who worked in the restaurant industry. And he was shocked at how engaged and how in love everyone fell with his story about, you know, the life of the restaurant industry in Kitchen Confidential, which he published in 2000, immediately became a bestseller. And he really did create a whirlwind of food media culture that obviously has only accelerated in the past 2 decades since that book has come out. And yes, he wasn't the biggest fan of the world of social media and kind of, you know, over-glamorizing what's happening in the food space, but he also recognized that it was very helpful for his own career and really helped there to be a stronger and more present voice for different perspectives in the food world.
And finally, talk a little bit about how, since the rise of Anthony Bourdain back in 1999-2000, how other cuisines have become elevated at the level of, for example, French cuisine. I mean, I think for many years in this country, it's interesting to me as a fan of food writing and of cuisines in general, that, you know, up until the late, you know, sort of early 80s, most Americans were not that familiar with even French cuisine. And when America fell in love with French cuisine at the level that it did, that became the end-all for everything. Everything was around French cuisine. And he was a big advocate of showcasing and highlighting cuisines from around the world, which it wasn't just street food, right? I mean, he certainly did a lot of that, and he would highlight a lot of street food, whether he was abroad or here in the United States. But he talked about other cuisines as having, and the chefs who cooked them, as having the same level of skill as some of the master chefs in France and in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, he really did help as I mentioned earlier, dive deeper and not just scratch the surface of what's happening in the food space in New York, but really exposing through his writing and the shows that he was the host of over the past, 10 plus years. He really did have this incredible narrative and storytelling and voice and perspective that was real and engaging, and it really helped open up the world's eyes to other cuisines from more marginalized countries in the world to really show that, yes, we all are the same and we all go through different experiences, but we all eat, and we all need to, recognize other parts of the world, not just what's in your own backyard.
Absolutely. Carleigh Connelly from Chowhound. Thank you so much, Carleigh. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I want to highlight again the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Many of you have been responding to me on social media, thanking CBS News for making this a point of the coverage of Anthony Bourdain's suicide, apparent suicide, and that also of Kate Spade. And so we just want to take this opportunity to, again, just point out that if you are feeling that you can't go on, or you're feeling as if you are being tossed about by the storms of life, call 1-800-273-8255. Someone is there 24 hours a day to listen to you, to take your call, and to talk you through it. And certainly if you know someone or you have someone in your life who you think may be at risk for something like this, please reach out to them. Let them know that you're there. Let them know that it can get better if they want to talk to you. And if they don't want to talk to you, at least guide them to the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, where there are people who are trained to talk to you, to talk to individuals about these difficulties. Again, the number is 1-800-273-8255. I appreciate the messages that I've been getting on Twitter and other social media platforms, because we certainly want to honor the life and legacy of Anthony Bourdain and, of course, that of Kate Spade, but we also want to be sure that we talk about the issues that may cause somebody to decide that they have no other recourse but to take their own life. So again, this is actually a tweet from the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. We're saddened to hear about the tragic loss of Anthony Bourdain. Please know you are never alone, no matter how dark or lonely things may seem. If you are struggling, reach out. Again, 800-273-TALK.